Good evening, welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Avneet Arora. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 5th of February. High-octane campaigning for Delhi polls comes to an end. Shutdown violence continues in Bangladesh, more vehicles torched by BNP. And people of POK demand end to rights abuses by Pakistan. And now for all the details. India's federal capital Delhi is set to elect its new government. Despite the looks of a two-horse contest between the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party and the Aam Aadmi Party, many however feared neither of them would be able to form a stable government. With 70 rallies in the 70 assembly constituencies of Delhi, the BJP pulled out all stops to woo voters in the last leg of campaigning that ends today. Delhi is a federal territory known as the National Capital Region and runs like a state government. The results will be seen as a test of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's popularity. But for the Aam Aadmi Party or AAP, it's a do-or-die battle. AAP finished second place in the previous Delhi polls in 2013 and formed a government with the Congress party's support. The government lasted 49 days before it collapsed and brought on the president's rule.
And Delhi's development is interlinked with the centre because many of the organizations and agencies in Delhi, they function directly under the central government. So you need a party which will work along with the centre. Our opponents, the Congress has a dismal record of governance. And then the other opponent, Aam Aadmi, they themselves have accepted they are agitationist, anarchist people.
Surveys ahead of the vote show a definite momentum building towards the AAP. But any party needs at least 36 seats to form government in Delhi. Given the nature of the contest, analysts warn Delhi may see a repeat of the last polls.
Hung assembly cannot be ruled out because it's a fiercely contested election. Though in the last 4, 5, 6 days the going towards up and they're picking up by the hour. If a hung assembly comes about, it's going to be a very messy situation.
For its part, the BJP has rejected the opinion surveys. It expects the Congress party to cut into AAP's support and pave the way for a BJP win. The elections are a test of the BJP's political prowess as the first party to win an outright majority at the federal level since 1984. The AAP, however, hopes its anti-corruption platform will resonate with voters again. But the urgent question is, will any single party win a clear majority and give the history-rich capital of Delhi a stable government? At least 76 leaders and activists of Bangladesh Nationalist Party and Jamaat-e-Islami were arrested on charges of violence and sabotage during the ongoing nationwide shutdown. The blockade, which completed 1 month on Thursday, has already claimed at least 50 lives.
The political crisis in Bangladesh does not seem to end anytime soon. At least 2 people were killed after opposition activists threw petrol bombs at a truck in northern Bogra on Thursday. The rising violence, a part of BNP's ongoing indefinite nationwide shutdown, has crippled the entire country. Bangladesh is facing one of the worst political turmoils in the recent past as the agitation is getting violent by the day. Thursday's incident comes 2 days after a similar firebomb attack on a bus in southeastern district of Comilla, which claimed the lives of 7 people. Hundreds of students on Wednesday demonstrated near BNP Supremo Begum Khalida Zia's office, urging her to take back the shutdown call after the Education Ministry deferred the SSC and other crucial examinations affecting 1.5 million students. Anger is palpable among all corners of Bangladesh, who demand an immediate end to the crisis.
আজ যে সহিংস ঘটনাবলী এর তীব্র নিন্দা এবং প্রতিবাদ জানাই আমরা। আজ মানুষ প্রতিনিয়ত দগ্ধ হচ্ছে, নির্মম হত্যাকাণ্ডের শিকার হচ্ছে। আমরা এর তীব্র নিন্দা প্রতিবাদ জানাই। এটা যে কোনো মূল্যে বন্ধ করার জোর দাবি জানাই।
Zia was on Wednesday charged for instigating Comilla's arson attack. The former Prime Minister was also this week sued for 42 murders that took place during the blockade. She had announced the countrywide transport blockade last month after she was refused permission to hold an anti-government protest. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on Wednesday, however, ruled out any possibility of clamping an emergency in the country, stating that the existing laws were enough to tackle the violence and anarchy.
Pakistan Army has claimed to have killed at least 25 suspected militants in airstrikes as part of the ongoing offensive against the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and other insurgents, a report.
The fresh aerial attacks took place on Wednesday in South Waziristan and Khyber Agency near the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. According to army reports, 7 militant hideouts were also destroyed in these strikes. Pakistan's military operation, codenamed Zarb-e-Azb, has been ongoing in North and South Waziristan since mid-June last year. A follow-up offensive called Khyber First was launched in the militant-infested areas in mid-October. The military operation has regularly seen retaliatory attacks from the insurgent side targeting authorities and civilians. Wednesday's strike came hours after suspected militants had killed 4 government officials in a brazen ambush in Kohat district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa late on Tuesday. The massive crackdown was a long-awaited push to clear insurgent bases from the country after a major TTP attack on Karachi airport in June 2014 sank faltering peace talks between the Pakistan government and the Taliban. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif had approved of intensifying the operation in the aftermath of the bloody terror strike on the Peshawar Army School in December that left 142 people dead. The Taliban, which claimed responsibility for the massacre, said it was in revenge to the ongoing Waziristan offensive.
People of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir continue to protest against the never-ending human rights violations in the region. They urge the international communities to help curb the rights abuses.
Pakistan continued its anti-India campaign on the sidelines of the Kashmir Solidarity Day on Thursday. Scores of people holding banners and posters attended rallies across Pakistan expressing support to the insurgents who are fighting against India in Kashmir. But it was a different sight in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir or POK. Islamabad, which has kept POK under its illegal occupation for over 6 decades now, continues to treat it like its colony. The regular human rights violations carried out by the Pakistan Army have seen enough anger from the people here. Residents in capital Muzaffarabad are venting their anger against Islamabad and demand an immediate international intervention to bring to light the situation here.
हम पिछले 67 साल से इस इंतज़ार में हैं कि दुनिया का ज़मीर जागेगा, यूनाइटेड नेशन का ज़मीर जागेगा और हमें वो हकूक़ देंगे जिसका यूनाइटेड नेशन ने वादा किया है.
A part of the erstwhile princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, POK was captured by the Pakistani army disguised as tribals on 5th February 1947. It has ever since exploited the region and its natural resources without paying any royalty or doing anything to better the social infrastructure here. Women of POK also remain an oppressed lot. They are the biggest victims of the atrocities of Pakistan Army and its officials. Activists said highlighting their plight was the need of the hour.
उनके जो इंसानी हकूक़ की खिलाफ वर्जियाँ हो रही हैं उसमें ज़्यादातर ख़वातीन इसका शिकार बनती हैं, तो हम इसलिए जो है जितनी भी इंसानी हकूक़ की तंजीमें हैं उनसे ये कहते हैं कि वो मकबूजा कश्मीर की ख़वातीन के लिए जो है अपना हक अदा करें.
Though there is a titular Prime Minister in Pakistani Kashmir, he has no powers and remains beholden to Islamabad. Though Pakistan claims to champion the Kashmiri cause at all fora, it has kept the region under its stranglehold by deploying large contingents of its army and paramilitary, making it one of the most militarized zone in the world.
Asserting attempts to tackle cross-border crimes, India and Bangladesh are diligently working towards resolving several long-standing issues.
The delegations from both the sides signed landmark agreements to extradite criminals and terrorists along the border regions during the India-Bangladesh Joint Border Conference in northeastern Agartala that ended on Wednesday. The countries also agreed to share real-time information on crimes, narcotics, smuggling and cattle lifting for better border management. They also pledged to build bilateral ties and expressed approval in resolving boundary disputes at grassroots level.
I am sure whatever decisions collectively we have taken in the last 2 days, we will be able to implement, and we will only take our relationship to the newer heights with the Bangladesh.
Officials of both the neighbors also discussed a host of bilateral issues like insurgent movement and human trafficking during the 2-day event. India and Bangladesh have been working towards reducing crimes and illegal activities along its border for some time now.
Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena has chosen India for his first official foreign state visit after assuming office. It is seen as part of the new government's pledge to pursue a global foreign policy as compared to the earlier regime.
Sri Lanka's newly elected President Maithripala Sirisena is scheduled to arrive in India on February 16th. It is being seen as a sign towards furthering his commitment to warmer ties between New Delhi and Colombo. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had invited President Sirisena to visit the country during his congratulatory message after he won the elections last month. President Sirisena had accepted the invite and indicated of visiting India within the first 100 days of taking charge. Prime Minister Modi is also expected to pay a reciprocal visit to Colombo in March. The two-day visit will be President Sirisena's break with his predecessor Mahinda Rajapaksa's pursuit of close ties with China, a key supporter of Sri Lanka's economy since its 26-year civil war ended in 2009. It has come as Sri Lanka's new government is adopting an India-first policy against the earlier administration under Rajapaksa. President Sirisena also chose India for newly appointed Foreign Minister Mangala Samaravira's first overseas trip last month, reflecting the priority his government gives to review relations with India.
High cliffs, dangerous rapids and some adrenaline-pumping rides seem to be enough to boost relations between India and Bhutan. Take a look at this unique attempt.
All they needed to strengthen ties was some high-end escapade. India and Bhutan embarked on an adventurous ride in the form of a friendship car rally to deepen their bond. The 3-day-long event was flagged off from India's eastern town of Siliguri on Wednesday and will culminate in Bhutan's capital Thimphu. Covering a distance of 528 miles, the cars plied through various challenging routes, giving motor fanatics enough dose of thrill. The participants, including 20 from India and 10 from Bhutan, rode through pristine foothills and forests and high Himalayan passes of altitude up to 13,000 feet. Organizers of the car rally said they are happy such initiatives would boost relations between the two neighbors.
After 2 years, Indo-Bhutan Friendship Car Rally is back. Again, we are organizing this international event in Indian subcontinent. And as you know, that India has presently very few international events, and Indo-Bhutan Car Rally is one of them. We are proud of it.
The event, organized by the Friendship Car Rally Association of the two nations, was aimed at spreading the concept of motorsports in the eastern Himalayan regions and enabling people-to-people contact from both the sides. It is the biggest motorsports event in eastern India and one of the only 3 international events being held in the Indian subcontinent.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. High-octane campaigning for Delhi polls comes to an end. Shutdown violence continues in Bangladesh, more vehicles torched by BNP. And people of POK demand end to rights abuses by Pakistan. Now viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter at SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.